our Citybiz viewers. I'm Alex Parker, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Regina Beatty, partner at Heritage Financial Consultants. Regina, thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you, Alex. I'm thrilled to be here.
You have spent the last 25 years in financial planning and wealth management. Before that, you were in management in hospitality. How did you make that switch and frankly make it so effectively?
Well, flexibility was the motivation. The hospitality industry is a 24-hour industry. And, with all the skills that I had learned in the industry, I was able to use math in my management functions. And I loved working with people. So when someone said you should consider financial services, it was like flexibility. I had children, so I wanted the time to be able to modify my schedule if I needed to. But at the same time, I got to use math and I really got to help people. So it was just a perfect fit. And I didn't have any adjustment issues. I felt like I died and went to heaven.
Your career now, 25 years and growing as a financial planner. Tell us, please, about that. What does that entail? Who do you serve? How do you do this?
So in our practice in Pittsburgh, we work with a lot of business owners. And it just turned out that we have a niche and some particular expertise in succession planning. Business succession planning in its purest sense is retirement and estate planning. So it just became a natural fit that, my business acumen and the people that I was meeting and starting to work with that owned businesses, that we worked really well together and we were really able to help them come up with solutions to help them and their families. So it just became a niche market. And at the end of the day, it's just a perfect fit.
One of the topics you are so passionate about is women's wealth conversations. Today's family dynamic, it is very different than it was a decade ago, a decade before that. I imagine it continues to evolve. Why is this so important to you?
Well, so often when we first meet a family, they think they've had all their work done. And then when we dig a little bit deeper, we find out that they don't. And there are so many huge coordination gaps that can really provide, chaos when there's a life event, a death, a disability, what have you. So I'm very passionate about empowering women to have a seat at the table, to be able to get involved and to help the families get those difficult questions answered. So often people become stuck because they don't know how to do things. And you said a little bit about today's traditional families. I don't want to date myself, but when you think back to Leave It to Beaver, right? The Cleavers, you had your mom and your dad. The dad went to work every day. You had the couple kids. And it was at that point, yesterday's traditional family. Today's traditional family looks so much different than that. You have blended families, yours, mine, and ours. You have his kids, my kids, our kids. But in addition to that, you have special needs. When you look at special needs today, it takes on a whole different definition. Back then, it was, developmental disabilities. Today, it rams all types of things, emotional or mental illness, substance abuse issues. All of those things play into today's traditional families and the financial planning issues that get them stuck because they don't know how to have these very, very stressful emotional conversations to empower them to make well-informed decisions. So that's where we come in.
Sort of some good news, maybe bad news for women out there that are either somewhat experienced or have folks like you assisting them, but women dealing with financial planning, given this changing landscape, your thoughts on that?
So some of the good news is companies are very aware, your financial companies, that they need to do a better job in serving the female in the relationships of the families that they serve. So that being said, a lot of the materials that they provide in education are all about helping the woman be more involved. So that's a good thing. Another good thing is there's people like me that recognize that this is a huge need and have particular expertise in helping pave the way to have those conversations, to help the families and empower the woman to make well-informed decisions, but also to have a real seat at the table and a real voice. And then some of the bad news is that if the work doesn't get done because you don't have the right resources in place to help, things get left undone. And that's very unfortunate, because for the inability to say, what about me? What happens to me if something happens to you? If you can't say that, you're leaving your whole financial future to chance if something should happen. And I have experience. I was widowed in my 30s. It was a blended family, and I know how complicated it can be.
Thank you for sharing that. Estate planning, which sounds daunting. On some level, it might sound painful to many folks, including myself. Where do you come in? How do you help folks with the daunting task of estate planning?
Well, the first thing we do is help our families and get them educated on the foundations of an estate plan. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it needs to be done. You have an estate plan whether you realize it or not. In the absence of documents, you allow the courts to decide what happens to the assets that you work so hard for. And that's never a palatable situation. It's very expensive. There's a lot of delay, additional costs. By sitting down with someone like me and working through your entire financial picture, we learn who and what you care about. And we can provide gentle guidance in what's right in your estate plan, the things that are important to you. But some of the basic documents that every family should have include a will, whether it's simple or complicated, depending on the situation. Powers of attorney. Those are documents that allow someone to act on your behalf if you're unable to act. It's very important. For the little cost that it costs to get a power of attorney done now, it costs thousands of dollars later that if you were in a car accident and couldn't write checks for someone else to be able to act on your behalf. So a power of attorney is a very important document. And then lastly, healthcare directives. What do you want to see happen at end of life? If there is no hope, having a document that spells it out saves your family a lot of chaos and a lot of commotion about trying to decide what you would have wanted. So those are the three basics of an estate plan that everybody should have. And then it gets a little bit deeper, right? Making sure you don't unintentionally disinherit your children by not protecting their inheritance from things like divorcing spouses, financial mismanagement, or creditors or other types of liabilities. And it can get even deeper than that, but that's not your typical documents. The typical ones I've already mentioned.
Regina, why is life insurance the great equalizer, if that makes sense?
When you work with blended families, when you have the yours, mine, and ours situation, or you own a business and you have one child in the business and one child not in the business is the gift that keeps on giving if your heirs are prepared to continue to run the business once something happens to you, the owner. But to provide for those that don't have, you wouldn't want your oldest child supporting all of their siblings for the rest of their life, and they're the only ones that have the sweat equity in the business. That's where something like life insurance comes in. You use discounted dollars, somebody else's money that provides triple net tax-free dollars to equalize both sides of that inheritance so it doesn't create animosity later.
What are some ways women and frankly men can go about learning and ultimately trying to make the best decisions for them in times that are not ideal? Much of this discussion is about when things aren't perfect. I imagine if everything was always perfect, it would be a lot easier. This is real life. These are folks' lives and their finances at stake, etc. How do you help folks with those, what can be, I think, difficult and rather emotional decisions? Because again, we're talking about preparing for times that, again, none of us really want to think about.
That's right. And, very often people want to plan when they haven't and something happens, just like you said, Alex. And so, it's meeting a planner, seeking out a comprehensive financial planner that even if you are in a situation where you have stressful, timely decisions that need to be made, that they take the time to ask you some questions that really get to know you, what you care about and what's important to your family. Without knowing that, it's impossible to give the best advice. I never want to shoot from the hip. I want to understand who my clients are, what keeps them up at night. And, there's been many times that I've been hired in the middle of an estate distribution situation where, the primary breadwinner has already passed away. And the attorney says, boy, you should talk to Regina. You didn't have this work done. Let them help you navigate through this and be that voice of reason and the second set of eyes. So even at the last minute, there is value to having someone on your side that takes the time to get to know you, but also listens and helps you make well-informed decisions. So it's never too late to get some good advice, and yet proactive planning always has a better net effect, hands down.
Regina, for our Citybiz viewers who are watching this and learning, I think, so much from you and your passion and your expertise, if they need help, if they want to sort of empower themselves, I'll be able to help, I think, of somebody like yourself. What's next? What should folks know?
What they should know is, you check out your planner on their website. Is it all about them, or are they talking about you? If you visit our website, distinctivewealthstrategies.com, you'll see that so much of it is more about what are the issues that keep our clients up at night, because that's how we best serve. So it's just, doing your due diligence. If you have the time to do that, it's important to do that. And very often we find that we're the quarterback in someone's financial life. We coordinate with their accountant and their attorney and their other advisors to make sure we take that high level view and create that roadmap to make sure that their plan is coordinated in all facets so that they can have optimal results.
Regina Beatty, partner at Heritage Financial Consultants, thank you so much for sharing all of your passion, wealth of knowledge, etc. for our Citybiz viewers. Take care.
Thank you. You as well.